Are you going to tell them about my microphone situation?
Yeah, you were singing when we were backstage.
This reminded me of Britney Spears or some kind of pop star performer, so I was trying to test out my pipes back then, but then we were worried that it broadcast over that lovely interview, so sorry.
Britney Spears, yeah. Did you have a favorite song from her?
I wasn't like a massive Britney fan. I think I liked the video for Lucky, because it was quite glamorous.
Right.
Aside from that, I was never sucked into the vortex of Britney mania.
Because you met so many of the, like, it's more 2000 stars on MTV, like when you did your live show, right?
Yeah, my live show in Britain and then the US was kind of around 2007, 2009. So Britney by then she was beating up cars and...
Shaving her head.
Shaving her head, yeah.
I checked on your Twitter account last week and you wrote this tweet, and I'm quoting you here, and it was actually directed to Amazon. So why did you have to call it Alexa? Why?
Yeah.
Is it something that has been popping up, like, because everyone has an Alexa now in their home?
Yeah, it used to be that I'd introduce myself and people would be like, sorry, what's that, Alexis? Or they'd be like, Alexia, I can't get your name right. And now they say, oh, like the robot. And I just, as is the theme of our talk, I've spent a long time kind of establishing exactly who I am and why I'm unique and all these different things. And then along comes this gargantuan machine that swallows my identity up whole, not on my watch.
So has Amazon reacted, or someone from Amazon?
No one from their camp has answered my question, but as well as being a, in-home robot, Alexa is also a camera, like a video camera that's used on commercials and stuff. So I'm multiple things. It's just a namesake. I'm not egotistical enough to think they actually named it after me.
Now, you just arrived from London today, where you've been living in New York for a while, for quite a few years now. You've moved back to London 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Kind of three. I find it hard to track when I moved back to London, because for about 18 months, I tried to lie and pretend I wasn't actually in London. I found it difficult to let go of the thing that I'd built in New York and my friendships and everything. Whereas when I first moved to New York in 2009, I had a huge going away party. We had an American-themed leaving party.
Oh, yeah?
But when I left New York to go back to the UK, I kind of slipped out the side door. And they were like, when are you back? And I was like, yeah, I'll just... So, yeah.
So some people in New York still believe you live there?
100%. There's a woman in my building who is sure I live there. She's like, here she is.
But
she once said to me, actually, the same woman, sorry, just to interject. There's an old lady that lives downstairs from me in this apartment I had in New York. And one time I came in and I happened to be on this billboard on Bowery because I was doing like a denim jeans modeling campaign at the time. So a couple of the people in the building had seen it. But as I walked in, having returned home, she was in the lobby with another person. She went, here she is. She's a model, but she doesn't look like one. And I was like, yeah, thanks. That's why I haven't bothered to learn your name. But one day we recycle this story for a cheap laugh.
And it worked.
And it worked.
Yeah. So now, but you came straight from London today. So what is? I mean, I have to ask you about the situation in London, especially this week. So what's going to happen with your country? I
mean, if the government doesn't know, I certainly don't know. But yeah, I was kind of glued to updates. I even woke up at 4 a.m. this morning and was Googling Brexit. I really don't know what's going to happen. I just hope that everyone pretends the referendum never took place and that we can all just remain part of the EU. But I don't know if my wildest dreams will come true.
Have you ever thought about, raising your voice for a political party or
no,
movement?
Not my domain, I don't think. Do you think I should go into politics now?
No, you've done so many things. I mean, maybe not.
It's just a checklist of attention. So I was like, I tried TV, I tried DJing or whatnot.
Worked.
Now it's politics, isn't it? I'd have to start my own party.
Your own party, what would that be called?
Oh my God. Siri. No, I don't know.
Siri.
I don't know.
But seriously, like, what do you think is going to, what's going to happen? Like,
I genuinely don't know, because I can't really, I mean, that was unexpected anyway, them just on the no confidence, and then they gave the confidence. I don't know. I really don't know. This is not my area of expertise.
I mean, you grew up in a small village,
in Hampshire. Privet.
Privet? Yeah. What do you think the people in Privet voted for? Are they?
I know that it's kind of like a conservative stronghold, that whole area, but actually my parents had a hard time during that, because obviously they're quite liberal and they didn't want to leave the EU, but it was causing tension amongst the village and amongst friendship groups and family members even, because it was a generational gap. So they'd have kids in London that were obviously more, I don't know, woke or whatever, and then these kind of rich old people in tiny villages just not really being exposed to any multicultural zones, being scared of, I don't know.
Do you think racism has been like being more open and since the Brexit? Because I mean, some people told me that there's after the Brexit election that there was some kind of like they could actually feel it more in the street.
I don't know, because I feel like it's difficult for me personally to gauge, because I do live in a very specific bubble in East London or the East Village of Manhattan, and of course all of my friends, it's quite a tight-knit situation, so I've not personally observed that, but yeah, it's really shameful to think that that's going on at this point, and I think the whole thing's just really embarrassing.
Yeah, well, let's hope. I mean, but this really, I just checked the news an hour ago, and nobody knows.
No, that's it, yeah. There's a complete mass confusion, and it seems to be no kind of way out.
Now you're also here because we invited you because...
And it happened during Glastonbury.
So,
everyone
who was in Glastonbury didn't vote?
When they did the referendum and they announced the results, it was the morning of Glastonbury that they announced whether we'd voted to remain or not. And when the news came in, there was just like hundreds of thousands of people on the way to the best weekend of their life, all just miserable. Everyone got to the festival like this, like, oh, God.
Yeah.
It was, so in that respect, on a very selfish, small scale, I was livid.
But you're also here to talk about your new job. You're a boss now, no?
I am a boss, in a way, yeah. No, I have my own company. I started a fashion line 2 years ago now, and I'm the boss. But I'm not the main one.
Why not?
I guess because I don't know. I'm the creative director and I'm the boss in that sense, but in terms of the business decisions or actually reprimanding anyone or anything to do with HR or anything, that's really not my bag.
And in which way has the fact that you're a founder of a company, 30 people, about 30 people working for the brand, in which way has that changed you? So many ways. It's difficult to take stock of them, I think. I think it was a really... I've always kind of just gone in at the deep end with anything I've done, and learning on the job has been the main appeal of most of my endeavors, be that with television or writing or anything. I'm just kind of bungee jump in. But with this particular business and setting it up, I think I was really... there was a bit more proof that it might work because I'd already done some collaborations, and so I'd had a bit of a dry run going into it, and so I knew somewhat what to expect. But I mean, it's a whole other thing when you're directly responsible for employing so many people and beyond, and when it has your own name attached to it, of course, it has even more... so, I mean, if you would do something crazy as a person, it probably would do something with the brand as well.
It would, but then again, we're in a weird topsy-turvy time when Trump can do mental shit, and it's forgotten about like a day later. So I don't know if like torrid affairs or like openly doing smack or something would be enough to bring it down at this point. I don't know what's left to be. I don't know. We'll see. What a challenge. There's a party tonight, guys. No, but I've just learned, I guess, tiny things, but they all amount to one big kind of wave of change. And I think so much about communication and teamwork, and my main involvement in the company is the creative process. So it's, everything.
How do you come up with ideas? I mean, I read this story about the travel collection, the airplane
arrivals
collection.
and departures. Yeah.
Because you travel so much and you've been observing people traveling, like wearing strange clothes or beautiful clothes.
We did a collection which we showed in September called Arrivals and Departures, and that was, definitely inspired by observing other people and their style. I think I'm compelled to observe fashion constantly, not necessarily even fashion per se, but clothes. I'm obsessed with clothes. I do kind of a stock take on what people are wearing, and I'm always inspired by looking at strangers and seeing what they have on. And it's not necessarily, a 27-year-old woman looking fabulous. Often it's like grandpas on Hackney Road, or, that really stylishness can come from anything. But I felt like the airport and that mode of travel and being in flux and being geographically between two places was an interesting dynamic when it came to expressing your personal style, because it's obviously the most public space you can get. There's people from all over the world. You don't know who you're going to see, but equally it's really a personal and private time. You don't really want to make friends at the airport. You're like, for the most part, in tracksuit, or like whatever. It's people act like they're in bed, but
that's right. That's the people feel some people act like they're still at home.
Yeah, and you kind of ignore people. It's a very odd. I find I have more collisions with people in an airport than anywhere else, and I think it's something to do with people finding it quite a stressful experience and just completely shutting off, and no longer their senses don't work. They're just like, ah.
Yeah.
So I just found it interesting, and yeah.
How did you learn your style?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Because when did you start being interested in fashion? Like as a teenager?
I think so, and I can't tell. I feel like I've been interviewed so much now since I was 22 that I can't tell what is a story and what's reality. It's like when you're shown a picture of yourself when you're younger and you're told what happened on that day, and then suddenly you can absorb it as a real memory of yours, but you're not sure if... Anyway, it's a bit like that. But I think as a child, yes, but in England I was at schools where we were forced to wear a uniform, and then outside of that my interests were always things that had a uniform or an identity attached to them. So horse riding, ballet, swimming, you're in a swimsuit, you're in a tutu, you're in a... Like they had really specific visuals attached to them. So I don't know.
So it wasn't your mother or your father?
Yeah, I think my mum has good style. I think we're, as a family, a kind of collection of people that are preoccupied with aesthetics anyway, and I see no difference really in the way I dress to how my sister does, who's 8 years older than me. So perhaps it was through her, or...
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. She has great style. So a bit of that. And then the way it developed, I think, was just from the movies I observed, or books I read, or songs I heard, and it being like a portal into other pop culture moments. I think I've always been... interested in collecting that kind of thing. Like, it's a weird... I just always want to know what's current and beyond, even to the point of Bird Box being on Netflix. I've never seen this thing, but I watched enough of it to be able to make a Bird Box headbutt gag. Like, I need to, I know just enough about a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, was there a moment when you realized other people are looking at your style... talking about it, like was it in school or after school? Or I mean, you became a model so early on, so... But
yeah, but when I was a model, I was modeling for quite broad companies or magazines. I was a teen model for Just 17 and, Sugar magazine, where I wouldn't say it was like the most stylish things. They were lovely magazines. I was really happy to be in them, but it wasn't like the creme de la creme of... I wasn't Edie shooting Beautiful Editorial as a young woman. I was kind of being forced into the weird pajamas and jumping on a bed or something cheesy. I think that's another thing. I think a lot of my early experience as a model was doing very commercial work that was extraordinarily cheesy. So there might have been a turn against that in like my later teens, where I was like, oh, how can I counterbalance this kind of thing that I don't connect with? So indie culture and that sort of thing became more attractive. I've forgotten your question.
I'm going to repeat it.
Great.
How did you find your style? Like, when did you realize other people were
I know they always want me to know.
Talking about your style.
I dropped it somewhere. I guess I cultivated it. I cultivated it through attempting to express myself. I think for so long, when you're a model for hire, you're up for grabs, and people foist someone else's identity on you in order to sell clothes. And the more that was happening to me, and the more conclusions were being made about me without my say, the more important clothing became to me in terms of self-expression, because I was a mute vessel. So when you can't talk and you have no agency kind of over how you're perceived, the only thing you can use to truly connect
and express yourself
is clothes. So I think I understood what something meant, and nothing, I don't know, because people often say it's like, what do they call it? Not easy style, or they're like, not easy style, but whatever that is. But they're like, oh, it's thrown
casual?
together.
No.
Yeah, and it is thrown together, but it's kind of not as well, because in the buying process or in the creating my own clothes, a lot of thought goes into what that is and what that means. And it's also a bit more playful than that. I think sometimes I'll just be like, I want to look like a Wes Anderson character, or I want to look like Celine Dion in Vegas. And it depends who I want to play that day. It's a lot about role play and playing with your expectations of me and how that interacts with my own personality and my brain and all the different things, obviously, like all humans.
Are you still sometimes nervous when, because I read the story that you were at the Met and someone directed you towards Oprah Winfrey, and I think in one of the interviews you said something like, oh, in this kind of moments, I'm pretending I'm the not nervous Alexa Chung.
Yeah, I think so. But actually, the more I settle into my 30s, the less I have to pretend, which I think is common amongst many women, many people probably, that your 20s, you're kind of blagging it, right? You've kind of got a sketch of an idea of the person you are and who you want to be, but it's a bit Bambi. And so you're not quite sure how it works, really. But I was, having to walk into adult rooms and be professional from 15. So I was always kind of bullshitting in that sense to get the next paycheck. And now I realize that everyone's terrified and everyone's worried about looking like an idiot or whatnot. So you can just own that and be like, I don't know.
What was it like when MTV in America hired you to do this live show, to be live on American television every day? I mean,
it was a lot of, I don't know, it was a challenge. So yeah, so I was a TV presenter in England, and then I was brought over to MTV America to host a daily live talk show over there that was kind of meant to replace TRL. I don't know if you had that.
The famous one, yeah.
Yeah. And I got the job, and I always wanted to live in New York, but they wanted to call it It's On with Alexa Chung. And I was like so anti my own name being in the title.
That has changed, apparently?
I don't know, I thought...
With the brand? Yeah. Just a little bit. But at the time you were afraid?
I was afraid, yeah, I was afraid. And I'd had a lot of experience doing television in the UK, but not necessarily live daily shows, and neither did I know what the American audience would want. And now I know that actually there is a massive cultural difference between Britain and the US. And
can you describe the cultural difference with an example, maybe?
Not without probably being somehow disparaging, without meaning to be. I think there is a space within British television, or at least there was, and that's what I was used to doing, where it was TV that was irreverent and cheeky and it was more youth-oriented, and it was kind of meant, people were in on the joke in a way, but that doesn't necessarily translate on quite a straight format in the US where I can just never, I struggle to be inauthentic moment to moment, so when I'm meant to be very enthusiastic about someone from 16 and pregnant TV show that I haven't ever seen, it was just like I couldn't fake enthusiasm to have them on my TV show. So I'd just be like, here she is. Can't wait. And it just, you need to be very positive and you need to be enthusiastic, and that's what I love about America. That's why I enjoyed living there, because they are so optimistic, and yeah, I enjoyed that aspect of it, and actually managed to become far less cagey and British. Like, I'm able now to look someone in the eye and go, thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and it doesn't sound insincere. Whereas for years, people would be like, you're joking. I was like, no, I'm not being sarcastic all the time. And I think it was nice to gain that skill.
But I think on British TV, wasn't that, is it a true story that you corrected Panic at the disco, like the singer, for his bad English?
Yes. Yeah, I had a bad day.
What happened? They weren't so friendly, or?
No, he's really not. He's actually subsequently, within the last 2 months, apologized on Twitter. So I think we're all cool now, 8 years later. But, you know, I was on television, I was very young, 22.
That's young, yeah.
And I was interviewing bands, and they were either, you know, it could be someone from the Flaming Lips or Red Hot Chili Peppers, but it could also be up-and-coming acts or emo bands or what. It was the whole gauntlet of pop music and beyond. And one thing that started to irk me was the idea that this transaction was essentially me trying to sell their music, right? You're doing press for your record. But sometimes they'd always be, sometimes always, cool. Sometimes they would act like they didn't want to be there, or they'd be surly, or kind of, and I totally get it. If you've done a full day of press and then some chick walks in and is asking you quite pokey questions, maybe you're going to get a bit eggy. But we had this moment, and I was tired of them, and they were tired of me, and then I just tried to make them look silly, which was immature, and I wouldn't do now, I suppose. Because now I know that actually creating anything is really fucking hard work. And to rip someone to shreds on the spot is not very kind.
No, but you've been successful for so many years in so many different fields. Could you tell us how you cope with something that didn't work, or that? How
I cope?
Yeah. How you cope?
Cope. Oh.
Yeah, when the MTV show was cancelled, for example.
Right. Yeah.
What was that like? How do you cope with that?
That was really sad, simply because I'd moved countries in order to do this show. So I'd changed my life quite a lot. I'd convinced a boyfriend to come with me. It was just a lot of upheaval to even get there. So then for it to be cancelled, again, because it had my name on it, I felt very responsible to the writer's room and to the camera guys and the sound guys and the entire team that would lose their jobs because I hadn't been able to be popular. So I think I took it quite badly, because I just felt really responsible and yeah, sad. But how do I cope with failure? I don't know, man. We're failing all the time. You
feel like that?
Yeah, I tried to make Toad in the Hole the other day, and it just was really flat.
Okay, on this one, okay. But
no, but things constantly go wrong, but that's how I get to the next bit, I think. And yeah, I think it's when you look back and you kind of clump it all together, it seems like a success. But there was definitely about a year I took in New York not doing anything other than, that's how I ended up writing a book. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a job, and I was like, oh shit, I'm unemployable in the US. I've left England because I've gone out with this fanfare, being like, don't worry, guys, I've got my own talk show. And then they were like, no, you haven't. It was horrible. So I didn't have a job. So I just, what did I do? I went to ballet a lot, and I thought about what I could possibly do. And then I decided I might want to collate some ideas and some images and make a book out of it. And then that sort of went on to the next bit. So I don't know. I'm just always trying.
I mean, I read this, I don't know if it's true, but like I think the Times wrote about, I think it was the Times, who wrote that at a certain time when you went shopping, you couldn't find anything new because it all looked like Alexa Chung.
Did I say that?
No, there was an indirect quote maybe.
Oh, it's a really tough line, isn't it? Because you sound very...
Because it's true, like so many brands were copying, like younger women brands were copying your style.
Yeah, maybe on the high street. I don't know. It's really hard to, it's hard as an English person to talk about. So you're like, yeah.
How do you escape from this? You know, when you're in the store. I was just thinking about the situation. You're in the store, or you see ads or whatever, and you think, oh, that's...
Well, because I buy a lot of vintage as well, so I think I used to at least, and so yeah, things occasionally did get ripped off. But how did it feel? Like the scene in Polly Magoo when there's just like loads of them, and she's like, ah! No, I don't know how to talk about this. I'll figure it out and do it in the future.
Okay.
Sorry.
I have just 2 or 3 last questions for you. Is it really true that Taylor Swift rescued you? Taylor Swift rescued you from a balcony once?
She did, yeah. She did. Not a balcony though, a pavement.
Oh, okay. Pavement?
Yours is much nicer. No, she didn't rescue me. I went to, I snuck into some kind of glamorous party.
As they do.
As you do. And then I went out for a cigarette and wasn't allowed back in. And so I gave up and sat on the floor with my friend, and she came by and was like, "Hi, girls," like a fairy angel person, and held both our hands and like trotted us in, and that was the Taylor Swift effect. Very good, impressed.
Do you still do karaoke?
Karaoke?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah?
What's your favorite? I
was trying to do it in my house the other night, so someone sent me a home karaoke kit, which I think might be curtains for me. I won't ever leave again. Luckily, I couldn't plug the mic in, but I do, yeah. What's my favorite song? Well, that's the problem when you're an avid karaoke goer. There is no limit to...
So what are your favorite songs?
I went last week and I put in Ever Fallen in Love by the Buzzcocks, but then my mate, Tennessee, had also put that in. So instead of like cancelling one in a public bar, we just sang it twice in a row. One time seriously, and the next time was really playing with those octaves. And we nearly cleared the bar, actually. They were like... what else works well? I have a strict list, actually. I wish I had my phone with me. Because I've now become... This is why I have to limit the amount I go, because I've become very critical of other people's choices. If anyone puts a Spice Girls track on, I'm like, doesn't work. It doesn't translate. I know you think it's going to be fun, but it's actually weirdly drags.
Do you sometimes have it like that you tell your friends, like, don't put it on? Like,
yes.
Yeah.
I have a friend, Zach, and we usually go into the room first and then secure about 5 starter tracks to set the tone. I'm like, quick. And he's like, okay. And then we let people in. So it's very controlled.
Yeah.
It's controlled fun. I'm really relaxed.
It's British.
I'm cool.
Is it? Yeah. No, but 5 songs you would put on the karaoke list tonight. So Ever Fallen in Love? Ever
Fallen in Love. What's the Pretenders one? Oh, God. Jolene, actually, is a bit of a banger.
Classic country hit. Dolly Parton.
I quite like Dua Lipa at the moment, I've got to tell you.
Dua Lipa, yeah.
It's a nice sing-along one. You wouldn't think it is, but it is. Pick up the phone. You know he's only calling because he's drunk and alone. Everyone, which might segue nicely into some kind of Destiny's Child situation.
Okay, that's a good list.
Yeah. Don't rap, I think, is a key for me, personally.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, no, Gangster's Paradise is the ultimate one. Sorry. Gangster's Paradise is the ultimate community-building karaoke song. Coolio. You can hang the mic from the ceiling and all gather round and do the
I always see Michelle Pfeiffer in the video.
Yeah.
You remember that video?
Yeah.
Him.
It's from the movie.
Yeah. But he was like walking around her.
Yeah.
Rapping and.
Oh right. So maybe they had to pick up that shot. Maybe, amazing stuff. God bless the 90s.
Now, 8 years ago, The New York Times asked you what do you want in life? Do you remember?
Okay.
Yeah. And do you remember your answer? Your answer?
Everything.
Yes, exactly. What's your answer today?
Everything. I just want to have, I don't want everything, obviously, but I guess I mean I didn't have any limited, I didn't know. I don't know. I just want to experience as much as possible and have a laugh. I don't think things need to be as serious. But that's coming from a privileged place. But I just would rather try and have a bit of fun. Girls just want to have fun, interestingly enough.
Would also be on the list.
Karaoke list, yeah.
Thanks for the lovely talk and the karaoke list. Thank you so much for coming from London. Alexa Chung.
Aww.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.